morning, everyone, and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. I am the badass Buddha, Lori Monaco, coming to you from a beautiful Eastern Tennessee where the fall colors are coming out and the temperatures have matched that beautiful autumn time of the year, and it's just been fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes, it has been, I think, a little bit more than sweater weather because I had to take out a scarf the other day. So, yes, the weather is changing. It's becoming very beautiful out. I'm loving it. You know what? I think we all complain every season, and it's part of human nature. But then we have no other choice but to embrace it, right? So, salud and good morning.
Were we complaining? I didn't think we were complaining. I think we
No,
both
in
said we were.
general, I'd be like, oh, it's,
Oh, I
you know,
know. I mean, I love all the seasons. I will say that. Like, I know some people say, "Oh, I like the cool. I like the fall." I love them all. I love changing of the seasons. You know, I don't know. I've over the years, I've just got. I really always watch myself when I say, "Oh God, it's too hot. I can't wait for the summer to be over. Oh, it's too cold. I can't wait for the winter to be over." I sort of gotten out of that habit because I don't want to take anything for granted
hmm
anymore. And it's like par for the course. It's like it is going to be cold in the winter and it is going to be hot in the summer, but it's like just what could we do, different. Maybe we just don't hang outside as much, or whatever it is, or we dress warmer or something like that. But I've made every effort not to really say that, too much. Sometimes I still do, but I made effort not to do it.
I think it's just part of nature. That's what I was saying. It's just part of nature. Good morning, Gail, Kathy, Piritza. I just think it's the welcoming. It's the turning the page from one season into the other. It's like we're not going quietly into the dark. We're not okay. We're changing now. So it's a whole. I think it's a whole thought process. It's a whole wardrobe change. It's putting wardrobe away. It's pulling out the wardrobe. I just think it's everything in one. But the acceptance is always there, and that's why we, choose to return to a fourth season. Part of the where am I? Moving from back from Florida up here, it was a choice, and I moved back in the dead of winter. Maron.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard, especially when you get used to that. I mean, I have to say, Florida was definitely hot in the summer. There is no question. But the winter was just fantastic. I was wearing like a sweatshirt and shorts, and I was out walking my dogs, and it was great. So I definitely, but yeah, and then you get used to that. So come back to the winters in the Northeast, and even here, the winters are pretty much the same. It's a shocker, so good for you for and it's gray. That's the other thing. I think that's the only part that gets to me is gray days. I don't mind a couple, because it's really nice to have that little uh that different what's the word I'm looking for, variety. I mean, I love blue skies, but the variety. But then when you have like consecutive gray days, that's the stuff that really frustrates me, and I see that a lot up north. That's one thing I have to say about down here is not, I didn't notice it as much, where there weren't as many winter gray days, which I was really appreciative of.
I love gray days. I love it. Hola, Milagrito, ¿cómo está? Hey, prima Chanel. It's good to be on. I love gray days. I guess as a poet, that always soothes me. Since I was little, I've always written about it. I even write about my rainy days. So
But
it's funny how there's people.
do you like gray days like consecutively though? Like in Seattle where it's gray like all the time. Could you handle gray days every single day
I've
for
never
like
been in a place where I've
weeks?
had to experience that. When I
Yeah.
do get the gray days, I do enjoy them. It's like a a sunny day for those who just love to be out on the beach for me. Like I listen to my kids out in Florida, and they just love to run and say, "Oh, let's go to the beach," and they'll lay there all day, and I just can't fathom that. And people can't fathom how I love to just sit by the window with my hot coffee or tea and watch the rain fall on a gray day. So,
I love it all. I mean, I really do. It's like here the rain comes down so hard. And because you lived in Florida, there's certain states that when it rains, I mean, it freaking rains like no other. And Florida's like that. I experienced that in Texas. Texas has some serious thunderstorms. And because Texas is so flat, you see the thunderbolts like from afar coming down, and it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then here it's just the South is the same way as Florida. It's like buckets. Like when it comes down and rains, it's like you don't want to be outside. You walk. You're like if you happen to be walking from your car, you will get like pelted and soaking wet. Unless you like that, and I know you like that stuff. But it's incredible to watch how nature can be and how varied it can be and how powerful it could be. It's just like a snowstorm, when the snow is coming. I love watching a big snowstorm overnight, when you see the lights from the house just sort of shining out and you see the snow just falling down and you see it blanketing everything. And then you go outside. I would purposely go outside and shovel snow at like 11 o'clock at night. If it had snowed all day and it had just started to stop, I would go out at 11 o'clock at night because it was silent. It was muffled. It's this quietness. And I wouldn't use my snowblower. I would just, shovel a little bit, but it was this like peace that nobody would know unless they were actually in snow and understand it. And I love the fact that I've experienced that in my lifetime, and that like you could go outside and go, like Charlotte did this, I think it was 2 days ago. She goes, "Why does it smell like it's going to snow?" And I started to laugh. And I said, "You know what? It does kind of smell like it's going to snow, and it might have like in the mountains, on the higher elevations, but it wasn't here." But people who have no concept of snow don't understand when you make a statement like that. What do you mean it smells like it's going to snow? It has a smell, there's certain sounds when you know that rain or a storm is coming. There's certain things that happen, and it's so cool to be aware of that stuff and really pay attention and know and have the knowledge of that stuff.
I think we should, if we paid more attention, right, to our lives, we would know who we were more in depth with the little things such as that. I'm a lover of rain and thunder and lightning. I love to just go outside when it's doing the thundering and the lightning, and you can smell the dirt before the rain even starts to drizzle.
Yes. Yeah.
And then after the rain, it's like a smell of promise. I don't even know how to describe it, but I mean, if you're in tune with that sort of stuff, you can speak about it. And a lot of people don't understand because a lot of people don't pay attention to the insignificant little things around us that are really huge if you really take the time out for it. Like, how important is it for you to know that it's going to rain? I mean, what type of job? Farming, animal tending, garden, whatever the leaky roof. You want to know when the rain is coming. It's just little things that we don't pay attention to, which brings us to, well, first our mantra, but Pasando Paginas. Sometimes we need to fully understand who we are and where we are and what it is we know, what we no longer need to possess, and what we need to apply moving forward in the one life we have. You can have a book of 5,000 pages, and the title is Pasando Paginas, is turning the page. And you can turn those 5,000 pages in this one lifetime, but what are you doing in that one lifetime?
Yeah.
So, yes. Well, Kathy says, I love the smell before the rain comes. Me too. It just makes me feel so calm, so at ease.
Yep. Sorry, I'm sharing.
No, that's okay, Gail. When I know that it's snowing in the wee hours of the morning, um, I've been known to wake some people up in the house here, and I'll make the coffee, and then we go either outside on the porch, or we just go right under the whatever street light is on, and as the snowflakes fall, it is, like today I brought this piece of art. I don't know if you can read it. It's not mirrored, but
Silence speaks.
instead of a face, yes, silence speaks volumes is what we talked about last week. And if you look, uh, can you see it?
Yep.
Can you see it? The mouth?
Yeah.
And sometimes we need to stop the noises that we feel we need to fill a void. You know how and I know plenty, when there's people that they don't know the conversation ended, so they just like stay looking at you, and then they're like thinking what else to say to fill a void. And the other or person is really trying to get away because the conversation ended, and then you're like, oh yeah, and sometimes it's just shh. Like I wish I can do something that's just like shh. And just listen to the silence, because it does speak volumes when you're sitting alone and you calm all those crazy thoughts, and then you're just breathing and listening to the sound of your breath. There's so much going on that's speaking to you. All right, go ahead.
I like what Editha wrote. She wrote, "My hips tell me when it's going to rain. My hips don't lie." Oh my God, that was a good one. That was a good one, Editha. All right, well, let's do our mantra. Let's set our intention. So our intention for today is to be intentional. Go about your day. What is it that you want to do? Have a purpose, and really make it purposeful. Let's use the word, but really like have power behind what you're doing today. And it could be one or more intentions. It could change throughout the day, whatever it is. But as long as you say, this is what I'm going to do today, and then dwell on that at the bad choice of words. I don't like the word dwell because it has a negative connotation, but I mean in a positive way. Is at the end of your day, reflect on how you set your intention, what you set, and if you followed through with it. And
do it in gratitude.
yes.
Be grateful. Be grateful. The simple things in life. Can't stress that enough. I like to read with Savannah. Sometimes she pays attention. Sometimes she asks me to read. And then sometimes she's like, whatever, why are you still talking? Right?
She is her granddaughter.
But I did read her,
child.
Which is funny because I did read her, I love insignificant things. And she's like, what's insignificance? I had to explain everything to her. And then I started reading. She goes, but the sun is big. And I said, but people take it for granted. And this is what we're talking about. And she's like, oh, and she's listening halfway through. She's like, did you see my shoes for my doll? And I'm like, get out of here. But I love it, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. Choices and letting her know she's not forced to sit there. So that's a whole other story. Let's go.
Good morning, Jonathan, our token male that comes on every so often. We've missed you. And just to remind everybody that remember, this is going to be it for our show. This is one of two more shows left. Next week is our last show, so we would love to go out in a bang. So please make sure that you share it with as many people as you like. Let's see if we could get a lot of people to come on for that last show, and just have as many people on to see what just as curiosity to see what the numbers would be like, because we would love to have you. And it's not a goodbye forever. I mean, we've talked about the idea of doing a special, doing like a late night special or an evening, Viva movie kind of special, and doing something where we're on there for an hour and a half and stuff like that. So, but we definitely enjoyed ourselves and the time that we've been here, and that's why today's we're going to do the mantra, but today's Gladiator Guru came up with this title today, obviously, because I don't speak Spanish, but it's perfect because it's we're turning the page, and then next week will be the last show, and that'll be the last one. So we haven't decided what we're going to call that one just yet, but we're turning the page, and then we're going to talk about what that means for everybody, what that means for us, but what that means in general. That doesn't have to be specific. So our mantra, here we go. Say it loud and say it proud. I am a disruptor.
I am a disruptor.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am spiritually grounded.
I'm spiritually grounded.
I am magically orgasmic.
Ole.
And I keep it real.
All day, no doubt.
All right. So what was that popped in your head? So tell us, Gladiator Guru, how did that pop into your head, that particular
Well,
way?
in reference to Viva Cafe con Leche, we're turning, estamos pasando página. As we mentioned last week, that we have new endeavors that have entered into our life, and we're dedicating time to that. And something that I strongly believe in, and for anybody that's read any of my books, I always talk about the endings are sad yet necessary, and take that and put it in your pocket for whatever you had to end regarding what situation or why. They're sad yet necessary, and for every beginning there's an end for new beginnings. And this is where we're at. Pasando página means turning the page and onto our next, what character are we going to be in this next turn of events that we're heading into. And I'm quite positive that this is the right time to do this. The Badass Buddha and I have had in-depth conversation. Y pasando página doesn't mean we forget this part of our lives. These 4.5 years have been so detrimental to our growth. The kindness in our hearts, like when you speak about being kind, that we learned that with the show so much more, because every Tuesday and Thursday getting up, whether the Badass Buddha was cross-country traveling, whether I was in Spain or in Portugal, remember those times?
Traveling.
When I was in Puerto Rico, and we still made it to whatever time change it was, whatever it is we were doing. I remember
whatever bad connection we had
in Puerto Rico. I was just going to that last day that we were actually driving to San Juan. We were leaving Cabo Rojo, and Henny's giving me his hot spot, like everybody. It was like the whole family in the car was like that universe conspiring together just to make this Viva show happen. And I have flashbacks yesterday, just
getting text messages, getting messages from you from Spain going, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it to the town. And like, I don't even know how far I am. Like,
and then making it on some events after I said I wasn't, then I did, because you haul ass. And so I think that, and those days that I couldn't were really hard on me, because I felt like I wasn't following through with what I was supposed to do. But all of that was growth. It was uncomfortable growth. And I think that's one of the main messages that the Badass Buddha and I always wanted to convey throughout all of our shows, is that growth is uncomfortable. And it's not all, sunshines and rainbows. It's like ripping off bandages and skin coming off with it, because in order for us to evolve, we must fall. We must know what it is to fall and lose and have the blood coming out from the scratches of our knees or our elbows, and then rising up above it. And I think that's what I feel that Viva has done, not only for the Badass Buddha and I, but for everyone who ever took the time to listen, to share, to do the replays, because I think that there's diamonds and pearls of wisdom in every one of our shows, whether they're comments made from the tribe, whether it's the
Oh
badass
yeah,
Diva
that was
sharing.
one of my favorite.
You know, it was always, I think it was always a win-win.
There
Whether
was a
we're like Iris says that, but that was exciting running to a cafe and then going in and Iris is trying to find the Wi-Fi and then coming out because it was noisy in there, and me setting up outside, and it's like people looking at me and we're just doing the show, and Iris telling all the people at their tables and them signing up, and I'm telling you that it was exciting. It was also like, oh, I'm not gonna make it,
yes,
but
right. I hear you on that.
sometimes saying I'm gonna be late, but I'm gonna be there,
Or I can't get
and then
on because I'm not getting a signal.
showing up looking like a homeless person. You had to
Still
know.
looked fabulous, no matter what.
You had to know how Viva, how tightly woven Viva was sewn into the tapestry of my soul. So to say this is it, I'm joyous about it because everything stays fresh. And if we would have continued haphazardly because we have so much else going on, would the information be as boom in your face? Would it have dressed you up in the armor of God, in the armor of the universe, whoever you want to say? Would it have dressed you up every morning with that empowerment to say, I got this shit. Let's do it, And that is why when we say, vámonos, pasando página, mi gente, vamos.
And we were so happy to have you on this with us. Like, we've changed, we've grown, we've done so many different things in this time period. Remember we started this in 2020 during the pandemic when everybody was on lockdown and everybody was home. And I think our highest viewing, we got like, I don't know, no, I think there was one show that was watched like 1,200 times or something crazy like that. So in 2020 we had a lot of views because a lot of people were home and people were sharing what they were doing and they were bored and they were frustrated and they were whatever. Then everybody started to emerge after that and do different things, and to watch people go from one thing that they were doing to share into something else and then share it with the tribe and then what they learned and share the insight and sharing like who they met and then sharing the show. It was just so cool to watch everybody evolve. And I think that one of my favorite things has always been the commentary from what individuals would say, because I think in the beginning we had people say things, but they weren't saying nearly as much. But then all of a sudden people, because we talked about that, Gladiator Guru and I talked about that all of a sudden people were commenting and sharing insight and saying their own stuff, which was so vital because that means that they had something that they wanted to get out there too, that it wasn't just us standing up here and speaking all the time, because we don't know everything. And that's the whole point, is we're students and teachers at various times. And we've learned so much from reading these comments. That's helped us grow and get to the points where we are in our lives, that we never thought in 2020 that we would be doing the things that we're doing now. I never in a million years would have thought in 2020 that I would be living here doing the things that I'm doing. Gladiator Guru would have never thought that she would have been back up in Connecticut permanently babysitting and having
my employer 7 months.
Getting rid of her house and everything in Florida. And you know what? Share that one thing that you shared with me with regards to your house with that storm. Could you share that with the tribe, or is that something?
Oh, yes. Sometimes we second guess ourselves, but I prayed on it, and that's me. I believe in the power of prayer. Even if I'm flying to Florida, I'm praying on it. And I walked around my house. Everybody knows it took me a while to finally decide. And so I never when I was in Florida and when I went in August, I sat across the street at my niece's house and I'm looking at it and there was no attachment. But I have survived. I've personally lived in the house since 2009, um, up until December 2023, right? Do you know that this hurricane barely did any damage on the block? My niece, she just lost her power and her water. That was it. It was and branches, but there was no flooding on the street, no nothing. Why did the tree in the yard fall on the house? And then it was a huge oak tree, like real huge with all these thick branches. Well, part of it fell on the roof, which was my art room, and then the other one fell, boom, and damaged the roof of the next door neighbor, taking down the fence. That never happened while I was there. I took that as confirmation that I did the right thing in selling when I did, because my house, my casita, I felt was always protecting me. Like casita from Encantos. Never had any issues while I lived there. And so I think confirmation comes in some strange ways. And although you don't want to, I didn't wish harm on nobody, but sometimes when you're changing, when you're turning the page on something, you really got to pay attention to, oh, the time was when the time was. How grateful am I that I paid attention? And that's all we ask. Just be aware. We've spoken about awareness and accountability and vulnerability. Please, if you're ever at a loss in your life or anything that's going on, go back and replay those shows. When I tell you that you walked into a raw diamond cave when you became part of Viva Tribe, I can't even put that any other way, because the conversations had, the true conversations that we have spoken about, the uncomfortable conversations that we have shared, are conversations that you needed to put in your pocket to be taken out at the time it needed to be present, to be served as your armor, to wield as your sword, or to take out of your pocket as a warm blanket to comfort those who have not arrived where you have arrived. Because remember, the one thing that I've always said, and I shared it mostly on this last Camino to different people, and I was wowed at their reaction to it, was that every day we are a student and every day we are a teacher. But with that, people take that literally. And mi gente, remember, there's always a meaning behind a meaning of something said. So if you are a student today, remember, you cannot teach it forward unless you have adapted it, unless you have understood the lesson. It's like anything in school, you are taught something, and before you can pass, you are given an exam. Have you fully engaged in what you have learned? Have you fully worn what you have learned and felt it, whether uncomfortable or wanted? Those are things that you have to, when you're learn it, damn it. Don't pretend you're learning it and you're just grasping the lesson and can't wait to share it, because it's emptiness. You're nothing but Swiss cheese. So with every lesson comes a learning. And then once you learn it and you understand the lesson, that is, and only that is when you turn the page and you teach it. So Pasando Paginas has many, many meanings. And exactly, Gail. You cannot take the lesson for what it is. I love quotes. And Rumi, Khalil Gibran, Socrates, really, those are like, those are my favorite. There's another one I can't, it's with the A. I can't, somebody help me, I can't get it out. But I always say, like Jung, Carl, I don't know, so many buddies, how do you say his last name? I say Jung, Carl Jung,
That's fine.
when he separated from Freud. I love one of them that says a tree cannot reach out to heaven. All the branches of the trees go up unless its roots are reaching down to hell. You need, hola, Henny, my son-in-law. I was talking about you yesterday. Side note, Laura, but I was saying, it's sad that Viva's going, but then it was also sad, um, of the closeness of people who didn't watch. And I said, but Henny always came on. My daughter didn't. So thank you, Henny, for showing up your ass. Because my son didn't either. And there's no excuse that he don't got Facebook because the MFer has YouTube. But here we are. Dios te bendiga. So I don't know if you listened to what I was saying, but everything is a turning of a page. And if you really, 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 really want to grow into your purpose, into the person you're supposed to be, not the person you want to be, because I want to be a size 7 flat stomach and this bank account chick. So it's not who you want to be. It's growing into the person you were born to be. We all have a different purpose. We all have an assignment. Then stop lying to yourself. Stop pretending to be somebody you are not. Because it's going to backfire. You're going to grow old and look in the mirror and be like, who the hell are you?
And it's exhausting.
What the hell are you?
And
it is exhausting.
I mean, that's one thing I will say is that I finally become so comfortable with the person I am. And I've embraced vulnerabilities. I've become stronger as a result of it. And I don't have as many as a result of it. And admitting who I am and being aware and still taking the bite and the sting when there's still some things that I'm not seeing and then get called out on and then have to be like, oh, God, that's so true. But I've almost, not that I like that. I don't know how to say the words to say that. I guess I'm appreciative of when that happens because I've made a very big choice of the person that I want to be and the person that I don't want to be. And moving away from things also has helped me become the person that I want to be. And I'm living that person that I want to be. So I'm so clear on that. So if somebody jumps, I was just talking about this yesterday with a friend of mine, a mental health worker that I met through the volunteering. And she's from upstate New York. And we were just talking about that, how it's just when you know where you're finally meant to be and you're just allowing yourself to be who you are. It's such a beautiful feeling, but it also means to be 100% aware and call yourself on that. And we talk about ego a lot, and Gladiator Guru is always talking about nurturing the ego. And that's that's so important because when people say things like, oh, you got to get rid of the ego's no good. That's not true. That's why when you said it that way, it sat with me for so long because I had been listening to people saying about the ego. And the ego, when you have an insecure individual and they're very self-centered, their ego is running the show. So when people say, oh, we got to get rid of the ego, but when you put it into that perspective, Gladiator Guru, it really sat with me. And as I was growing, I kept hearing that. And I said, oh, it's not that the ego's bad. It's that when the ego is left to its own devices, right, it becomes bad because it gets in front of the insecurities. And rather than being able to work on your insecurities, because that's the part of healing, is you cannot work on your insecurities, you can't heal from them if the ego's in the way, stopping all over that growth because it doesn't want anybody to know that it has these insecurities. It's weird. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful catch-22, but to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to nurture the ego because the ego can be badass. The ego is what gives you that, that strength sometimes to just stand up and it's your hype man. It's your hype. It's the hype man. That's a beautiful way. Your hype man. Yes. It's part of your spirit. Now, let me tell you something. When I wrote my article and I was like, how do I fix it? There's something missing in the order. It was the order that I had it in. And it was because I kept hearing everybody kill the ego. The ego's not good. I kept hearing all these people having their positive podcasts. And I was like, that's so wrong. And it's like, if you feed your spirit, that's the article, kindness and gratitude,
then you nurture your ego, expelling the anxiety. And what the fuck is anxiety, mi
Right.
gente? It is the fear of fear. Stop living in fear. Stop
Fear.
second guessing yourself. Make a fucking decision and stick with it. People self doubt themselves, then they blow up and get so, oh my goodness, I can't believe you are second guessing me. My word is not enough. Then they get all defensive when somebody does
Yeah.
it. You're doing it to yourself. You're setting the mode for your lifestyle and how to be treated. Stop second guessing yourself. Stand on whatever decision you're making because you believe in it. Let the fear stay in your top drawer, okay? And walk out on faith. Flow on that energy that is positive. You
Yes.
can't do it any other way and expect a different outcome. And I think that's the main part. I would get frustrated because, huh?
I said paths to insanity, doing it the same way over and over and expecting a different outcome.
Yeah.
I
So
want to
when
say
the
good morning to my cousin. My cousin Vanessa is on. That's such a treat. Hi,
Hi,
Vanessa.
Vanessa. So I think, and Kathy says the unchecked ego. I think it's the unnurtured ego, Kathy. I think we blame the ego. See, as humans, we need something to blame it. Look in the fucking mirror and realize that your puzzle is missing some pieces, that you have an expectation that others are
I've
supposed
spent
to
a lot of
fill.
years missing pieces of my puzzle.
With the expectation, well, they know me. That's my husband. They should know I don't feel good. They should bring me the soup. They should know
Yeah.
I want my feet up, And we have had countless shows on that. So that your ego, your feelings, your growth, your evicting unnecessary thoughts and emotions from your temple, it's all your responsibility. So stop fearing the responsibility because you might mess it up, and let go of the assumptions and expectations that someone else is supposed to fix you. When you're left to your own devices, you will figure it the fuck out. Never fails. Never fails.
Yeah. I think that's probably the hardest thing that we ever have to do is take that moment to figure it out and admit, like it's very hard to look back at things that we've done. So we don't want to live in the past. And we've talked about this so many times. We don't want to live in the past. What we want is to reflect on the past and say to ourselves, what did we do that wasn't the best version of ourselves? What did we do that didn't represent us? What did we do that got in our own way? Did we self-sabotage? And then what did we learn from that? And are we still doing that? And if we are still doing that, then we have to take today and make the changes, because today is the only change that can be done. Today changes today, which changes the future. It cannot change the past. And when we come to that conclusion and say we can't go back and change the past, all we could do is make the changes today necessary to move forward. I mean, there's things that I would love to have changed from my past, but I can't. So all I have to do is look at that and say, is there anything today that I could do differently or better, really, that I could do better that will make up in a way for the past, and again, may not, it is what in fact, this person I was talking with yesterday, awesome lady, got into mental health and as a therapist because she was an alcoholic, and she went through the steps and got herself clean and sober, and you hear that a lot. There's a lot of individuals that start off that way and then they go into mental health, and she wanted to learn why she had these challenges, and was it genetic and like all these things. And in listening to this, we just kept having the same conversation of it's about, like, we can't go back. Like, one of the steps in substance abuse recovery is, and she said it's the ninth, because I didn't know which one. I said, which number? She said it's the ninth, is where you have to make amends and you go back to people.
Yes.
And you apologize for your behavior. And if you think about this, that is one of the bravest things that you can do, because number one, you're taking full accountability for your actions. You're not making any excuses, but you're doing it not having any idea how the other person's going to respond. Some may
Yes.
be happy and say, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you did that. Some might say nothing, and some might just come right at you, and you have to sit there and take it. You can't, because you can't turn around and go, well, I didn't know any better and I was on, because that's the whole, you miss the whole point of that step. If you start making the excuses, you have to take it, and you have to know that whatever happened in your past may never be healed from that person's perspective, because they're not willing to let go of it. So we can't control what other people think. We can't control free will. We have to just always say, I've made the effort, and now I'm going to go in, I'm going to move my life forward and not stay tethered to that, and hope and pray that I'm opening the door for those individuals to come back to me at some point, and we can reconnect. And if it never happens, then it never happens. But you have to be okay going forward with that, with no resentment, no guilt, no, but taking on the responsibility for yourself. Because if you ruined relationships because of your past because of your past choices, whether they were subconscious, conscious choices, like I chose to do this and screw everybody else and it hurt people, it is what it is. So if that person decides never to speak to you again, then they don't. And you have to be okay with that. You can't make excuses, say, well, I tried and they're just being ridiculous, and I've made changes in my life, and they should be grateful for the changes that I've made. That's
Then
all
doing it. You're doing it for others, and I love that. Thank you for bringing that up. That when you've grown, when you have evolved, is when you're doing it intentionally and with gratitude that you have reached a part in your addiction of you being able to come out of it and apologize for your behavior, which means they don't have to accept, because you're not apologizing to make them feel better. You're apologizing to release yourself of the things, and that's how you will become better. And as more you grow to be better, the stronger you become. So when you reconnect or you return or you run into them, things may seem different. Some people in stage 9, I think it is, aren't like fully ready. It's a stage they go through, but the other person is still a little leery on it. So I think when I apologize, I don't apologize so you can feel better. Now I know that I can be twisted. I'll be like, well, I'm sorry you felt that way, which isn't an apology at all. It just means you're an idiot and I meant what I say while you're getting your feelings hurt. Because I can be that person, because I'm 50% namaste and I'm 50% what? But when I apologize too, I'm apologizing for myself for allowing myself to do that. But now we're gonna go pasando paginas. When you turn the page, it's also for your growth. Everything you do is for your growth. And if you grow towards the light, if those branches are growing as they should, sturdy and firm, and the leaves are going to cast a shade so that things can continue to grow as they should, then you must realize that your focus is always you. And when you focus on your growth, on your betterment, on your acceptance of who you are, and the acknowledgement that you need to remove, some shit needs to go overboard in order for you to feel lighter and really be in that light that you're supposed to be in. That's when things turn. That's when you can be of service to those around you. And that's how it is. People too much complain about what someone else is doing while you're sitting here complaining about what they're doing that's negative, and now you're spreading that negativity. You have to take accountability for who you are, where you stand, what your beliefs are, and where you choose to be. Because not everybody is placed on this earth to evolve. They are the reminders of why we must evolve.
Yeah,
I read that. Don't ask me who the person is. It's not mine. But I read that. And I sat with it for a while, because at first I didn't agree with it. And then I was like, you look around and we've met those people that they may be an uncle, an aunt, an older cousin, or
A
somebody
friend.
that you're just trying to push, and no matter how hard you try to hug them, love them, yell at them, maybe even try to hit them, they're not going anywhere. And they're
Yeah.
content because that is their purpose. To be a reminder for those that are supposed to evolve into their purpose in
Yeah.
this lifetime to be of
Yeah.
service. Get off your ass, stop procrastinating, stop being a victim, stop living in excuses, get your shit together. And if any, you're no different than the millionaires, no different. You just got to work a little harder.
Well, if I could
And
jump
then what
in,
is your, uh huh,
if I could jump in, and even with business, I've done enough business coaching classes where they're talking about being an entrepreneur, and this is really important, and you've got to do this and you've got to be this way. And I sat there one day and I said, not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody's meant to
yeah.
run their own business. And we have to,
Or be a
as a
caretaker.
business coach, you have to also have the ability to get out of your own headspace and say, maybe entrepreneurship is not for you. Because think about it from a perspective. If you own a business, you need people to work for you. If everybody wanted to be an entrepreneur, you'd have nobody working for you. So sometimes what you need is that number two person, or number one person, if you want to call it that, that sees your vision, supports it, but does no desire to run the business, but they want to be a part of your vision. They want the people that want to work for you. And so it's the same kind of thing, is that we all have a purpose here. And not everybody is meant to evolve. Not everybody is meant to have that, at least not in this lifetime. If you believe that people, come back and they get a chance to redo their lives or redo a life, I believe that, and so this particular one is, maybe that's not meant for them. And and then I have to look at it and say, I can only worry about my lane. I can only worry about me and say, what is
Yeah.
meant for me? Am I truly meant to be an entrepreneur? Am I truly meant to do certain things in this lifetime? And be clear, by the clearer I am on who I am, the more I feel it, the more I'm paying attention to my intuition, the more things will come towards me that will remind me that that is where I'm supposed to be. If we're not clear, stuff constantly gets in the way. It's constantly, things are tougher, but you make mistakes because you're just not clear in where you're supposed to be. And it's not saying that it still doesn't happen. Things don't still get challenged, but your resilience is much greater. You are better at figuring things out. You are better at making decisions. You'll come out of it quicker. Like, it'll only sideline you for a moment, and then you're like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I need to get back on track here, because that's not where I wanted to go. And so instantly, okay, thank you for the wake up call. That's not where I want to be. Or you say, yeah, you know what? I feel it. This is where I want to be. So what do I need to do to get around that little obstacle? What do I need to learn, grow, and be strong enough to move past that one? And then you just do it. You figure it out. Or somebody just all of a sudden calls you out of the blue or texts you and says, hey, I got this information. Would it be useful to you? You're like, holy crap, that's exactly what I needed, and then acknowledge it to the person and say, thank you for that, and not take it as if it was yours and you thought of it. That's the other thing, is to be aware, be accountable, and know when you need to share that and say, I wouldn't have been able to do this without you had you not made that suggestion. So thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Well, I agree. There's people whose insecurities have rooted so deep that although they pretend that they're no longer that, it is. An example where we have the studio, we saw some people packing up one day, and we're like, oh, you know, you're, I don't know. I said, me. I'm like, oh, where you going? What are you doing? Oh, we're getting ready. We have a show tomorrow. And I said, oh yeah, where? He goes, oh, they're all over the place. And then another chick said something to that effect. And I'm like, what? Why wouldn't they just say where it's at? Like, oh, they're all over the place. You can just look them up. Like, they didn't want me to know what fair they were attending. And you get that. I'm not, oh, is this what he meant? No, that's what the hell they meant. And then, so you have people who are so insecure. And what is insecurities? What is being in competition? Man, before I used to say I'm only in competition with the person I was yesterday. Then over a year ago, I was like, I'm not even in competition with yesterday's Margarita because she will pave the road for today's Margarita. And I realized that competition is insecurities. Why am I going to compete with somebody? Again, we can talk about the bread aisle, how many different breads are in there. If you really are secure in what the hell you're doing, what you're speaking on, how you live your life without worrying about who the hell got something to say about you, then you have arrived to where you're supposed to be, to the beginning of your new beginnings. When you change the pages and what people are, remember, meet people where they are, because sometimes you got to leave them there. Don't forget to hire ushers for your event, because some motherfuckers need to be in the nosebleed section. Not everybody deserves VIP seating in your life. And sometimes you got to remove your own ass from the front part of your life because you're self-sabotaging. So I think
you got to remove yourself from your nosebleed section. What the hell am I doing all the way up here? What happened?
Yeah. Because sometimes we bring all that insecurity with us, all that self-doubt. Is my stuff good enough? Oh my God. So real quick, because I know we got to leave. Do you know that I had an event this Saturday, an autumn festival up in the nature place in Norwalk, and both Iris and I had our own tables. So when we first arrived, we're the only Boricuas with no tent. We were the only vendor without a tent, right? So I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna stand out. So we go, I put Iris next to somebody else setting up, and then there was nobody besides me, so I set up. So then I see the lady come, and her son's putting up her tent, and I'm like, yeah, and we always gotta just mess it up somewhere. Anyway, she was selling teas, and she real like minimal stuff. She was selling natural lip balm. Just nothing major, little packages of like elderberry seeds and stuff. And of course, I always buy from people because that's what you do. And I had to look at her in the middle of her conversation. I had to tell her, you are such a woman's woman. Thank you for allowing me to be in your presence. And she was like, what? She was telling me secrets of the trade. She told me to come down to Prospect to her apothecary, that she would train me on different leaves and different things of how people sell different valuable stuff. And she was telling me about all these fairs, where to sign up to the farmer's market. She was giving me her inside trade secrets. And you don't find that. And I was amazed. And I was honored to have met us. You could tell she was like a single mother. Her 2 kids were there. And she was telling me what thermal printer to get for the labels. When I'm telling you that you will find your people, but you got to be awake. You got to let the insecurities, you got to tuck that bitch in your back pocket, and you're going to say, I'm doing this. And if you got to get one of those fitted shirts like I have on under here that has a big S on it, and you put your other clothes over it, but you're constantly feeling for your armor, you do what you got to do to take you where you got to be until it's time to turn the page to become better, a bigger version of yourself. Because pasando Página means growing. So let's grow, mi gente, because enough of being stagnant. The world is changing very fast and in not a lot of good directions. So let's wake the fuck up, be aware of what we want, where we want to be, and how we're going to get there.
Right. Very nice. Very great story. So I'm thinking that maybe, hello, good morning.
My super girl.
We haven't
Say good morning.
Good morning.
We haven't seen her in a while. So maybe
I love her hair. Like I purposely take her hair out. Go ahead.
I was going to say that maybe next week, since next week's our last show, I'm going to throw this out to Gladiator Guru on camera. maybe we'll start a half an hour early so we can make it a 90-minute show, because we do need to finish by 9 for Gladiator Guru to do what she needs to do. I have a little bit of more flexibility. So maybe we'll start a half hour early. We'll make it a 90-minute show, and we'll just we'll go out with a bang. So this was a great conversation, and this is going to be a continuation of the conversation for next week.
Yes, right. I'm just trying to see if we got a response. And let me tell you something. I've read your comments. We've been talking and talking because you know what? It's coming to a close of such a beautiful relationship. But we have read your comments. The Badass Buddha normally is perfection at responding or reading them out loud, but we have read them. Iritza, Desiree, even Chanel sharing a story about her mother-in-law in Florida and the damages on her. We've read them. We love you. We send you prayers, light, and energy. Yes. And always, and my son-in-law, Henny, thank you for, and Pookie. I mean, those always have been the strongest men on our shows, always on in the commentary. We love you. So next week, 90 minutes. So come prepared. Bring your coffee.
And hopefully we'll remember that it's starting early ourselves. I'll have to get my ass up earlier. And oh my gosh. All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here today. We love you. We will see you next week for the final show. Make sure you share and spread the word. Let's see if we can get a lot of people on that show. And let's see if we get Gladiator Guru to get emotional. You know me, I'll cry at anything, but let's see if she. All right. We love you. Have a great week from the Badass Buddha. Remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
Yes, mi gente. And look, remember, I have earrings that say exactly what I'm going to say next. And the art, the lady, look at her earrings. If I could ever do this right.
Yep.
She's also wearing the magnificent saying that says, mi gente.
And where is the guy?
Breathe in the beauty and breathe out the bullshit. Namaste.
Namaste, everyone.